Developed for PlayStation 2 by Japanese developer Yuke's and published by THQ, WWE Smackdown Here Comes the Pain is widely regarded as the best wrestling game in the Smackdown series, with fans still arguing to this very day over whether or not the game is the best wrestling game of all time. Building on the success of the previous game in the series, Smackdown Shut Your Mouth, Here Comes the Pain introduced a ton of new superstars, including Batista, Charlie Haas, Chavo Guerrero, Eric Bischoff, John Cena, Goldberg, Rey Mysterio, Rodney Mack, Sable, Scott Steiner, Sean O'Haire, Shelton Benjamin, Ultimo Dragon, and Victoria. Freshening up the Legends roster, the game also included 9 new WWE Legends to play as, with the Road Warriors, Hogan Animal, George the Animal Steel, Hillbilly Jim, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, The Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Ted DiBiase, and Sergeant Slaughter. One bonus legend also included was the classic version of The Undertaker with his original dead man look, which marked the first time that a current day star would also get a Legends model in the same game. Aside from the Legends mentioned, the game was also set to feature both Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. However, Hogan was removed due to him leaving the company midway through development, while Warrior was removed after threatening the WWE with a lawsuit. Despite both stars being removed, it's actually possible to unlock them in-game using an action replay system, as both players can be seen on the selection screen featuring superstar stats and renders, with Hulk Hogan actually having 2 characters included, one for his then current persona and one as a legend from the 80s. Although both players do appear on the selection screen using this cheat, neither are playable, as selecting either of them will cause the game to crash due to their models having been removed. Alongside Hogan and Warrior, the game was also set to feature 10 additional characters who were removed much earlier in the development process and therefore don't include attributes or renders. These stars included Al Snow, Billy Kidman, Billy Gunn, Bradshaw, Jamal, Jeff Hardy, Molly Holly, Rosie, Spike Dudley, and William Regal. Of the 10, only Al Snow was somewhat playable, as selecting him and turning off entrances would load him into a match. However, his model was replaced with The Rock using Al Snow's moveset. As for Jeff Hardy, fans were hopeful that his model would be available using an action replay, as he was one of a handful of superstars shown off in a gameplay trailer that was released on a DVD from gaming magazine PSW. In the footage, Jeff could be seen performing a swanton off a ladder before he was caught by Brock Lesnar. Despite Jeff's model being complete and shown off publicly, this too was also removed, leaving only his name and finishers. Despite all of these removed stars being unplayable, some hidden content that was playable were these hidden Team Angle attires for Kurt Angle, Charlie Haas, and Shelton Benjamin, all of which were complete and ready to use, but never made it into the finished game. Alongside the addition of the new superstars who did make the cut, the game also featured the inclusion of 2 new match types, the Elimination Chamber and Bra and Panties. The Elimination Chamber match had debuted in WWE less than a year before the release of Here Comes the Pain, with the developers getting straight to work on including it, as it instantly became the most requested and most talked about new feature. The new match type would also prove to be a big part of the game's reveal trailer, as it showed off a lot of new footage of a bloody Triple H resting against the chain wall and Shawn Michaels celebrating with the World Heavyweight Championship in a recreation of the first ever Elimination Chamber match that had took place at Survivor Series the previous year. As if that wasn't enough to whet people's appetites, the trailer would go on to show off the debuting Rey Mysterio as he pulled off an insane looking shooting star into a Hurricane Rana from the top of the chamber pod, before Rob Van Dam could be seen leaping from the turnbuckle onto the chain link wall, with other chamber interactions also shown, including the ability to graze your opponent's face against the chains. The teasers for the match had fans instantly hooked and clamouring for the game's release, with the match type totally living up to the hype, as it became one of the most fun to play modes in the series and offered up a level of interactivity that we'd never seen. Meanwhile, the inclusion of the controversial Bra and Panties match also went down very well, especially with the game's majority teenage audience, as the ability to tear off the clothing of your favourite divas was all too alluring. As for the match itself, the gameplay was pretty basic, as pinning moves were replaced with new animations that would see players pulling at the clothes as part of a minigame in which they had to rapidly press a certain button. Successfully performing these actions would first see you pull off your opponent's top, before then removing their bottoms, leading to the ref calling for the bell and a new victory scene playing out in which the disrobed player could be seen covering themselves up as they scrambled away up the ramp. Due to the removable clothing, there's actually a pretty fun Easter egg that occurs when assigning the people's elbow and using it in a bra and panties match, is due to the clothing working in the same manner as the Rock's elbow pad. Performing the move will see the player motion to remove the elbow pad before then removing their bottoms. Should you attempt the people's elbow a second time in the same match, then this will see a similar result, as the player will once again motion to remove the elbow pad before then going on to remove their top. Once both items of clothing are removed, performing the people's elbow a third time in the same match will see the animation switch to the alternate animation without any sort of removal. Despite already having the top and bottoms removed using the move, the game won't actually recognise this change, therefore it'll still allow the opposing player to try and remove them. However, with both items already removed, trying to remove a third item will cause the game to crash. Whether this was intentional by the developers or it occurred in error due to the clothing objects being set up the same as the Rock's elbow pad are unknown, however it does make for a pretty fun Easter egg. Also, fun fact, if you play the Japanese version of the game, rather than the bra and panties match, the Japanese version refers to the match as a bikini match. Expanding on the season mode seen in previous games, Here Comes the Pain season mode would take place over the course of one calendar year that was filled with intense storylines that would see the player going up against Vince McMahon and members of the corporation, with some of the moments featured resembling storylines that had actually appeared on TV. Each of the storylines featured in the mode would begin with the player meeting one of several authority figures backstage, who would then pitch a storyline that the player could either accept or decline. If you chose to accept the suggestion, then this would initiate the beginning of the storyline, which would then run the course of a month and culminate with a match at the next pay-per-view. However, should you decline the suggestion, then this would see the game place you into random matches to fill out the card, or hold you back from appearing until the next storyline was due to take place. The game also included the new option of being able to visit the general manager, which was either Eric Bischoff if you were on Raw, or Stephanie McMahon if you were on Smackdown. When visiting the GM, players were given a set of options to choose from, including the ability to request a title shot or be drafted to a different show. If you requested to be drafted whilst you were involved in a storyline, then the request would be denied. However, if you had turned down the storyline suggestion, then you were free to switch brands. By switching from one brand to the other, this also allowed players to partake in storylines that were unique to a certain show, as despite the season only lasting for 1 year, it did have great replayability, as each show featured its own set of storylines, with many including different outcomes that were dependent on the options that you chose. Another cool feature was the ability to visit backstage areas before matches, where you could meet up with and interact with various superstars. During these interactions, you would be given certain decisions to make, which would lead to all kinds of outcomes, some of which included opponents challenging you to a match in the ring, a brawl backstage, or even another superstar making an appearance and challenging the person that you're talking to a bodybuilding contest, with you as the referee. Depending on the choices that you made during these situations, not only did it lead to extra matches, but it also affected your overall rating, as choosing an outcome that was positive would see them increase, whilst choosing the negative option and annoying your opponent would see them decrease. For players wanting to cheat an easy win, one glitch that proved useful came in First Blood matches, as selecting to play as Raw GM Eric Bischoff led to a guaranteed win, as this version of Bischoff was unable to bleed, making it impossible for you to lose when selecting him. When it came to the Creation Suite, the game continued to build on previous iterations with expanded offerings in Create a Superstar. However, the big new addition came in the inclusion of Create an Animation. Selecting this new creation mode would lead to a sub-menu where players could select to create either a fighting, running, walking, winning, or taunting animation. Surprisingly, this mode was a lot better than it sounds, as players could select a base animation before then going in and customizing all of the individual limbs and facial expressions, allowing you to create your own custom animations, however realistic or unrealistic as they may be. Although Here Comes the Pain took great leaps forward in almost all areas over the previous game, one thing that was missing was commentary, which actually came as quite the surprise, as not only was commentary featured in the previous game, but THQ had put out a press release confirming that Here Comes the Pain would feature an improved commentary system featuring Jayon King doing commentary for the Raw brand and Michael Cole and Taz providing commentary for Smackdown. In the weeks leading up to release, IGN, who had been sent a near-final build of the game, had reached out to THQ to confirm if commentary would be included in the final build. However, nobody from THQ would answer, which led to IGN putting out this statement on October 15th of 2003, confirming that they had received the final build of the game and that commentary was not included. As for the reason, according to the developers, the feature just wasn't completed in time for release, which led to the game releasing without any commentary at all. Despite the game releasing without commentary in the US, Europe and Japan, something you might not know is that there was actually one version released that did, as following those releases, the Asian version of the game, which released in January of 2004, actually included English commentary featuring Michael Cole and Taz.
Oh my god, stutter!
Although Cole and Taz are present in this version of the game, JR and King are nowhere to be heard, with Cole and Taz providing commentary for both brands. Why this version of the game featured commentary while others didn't is unknown. However, YouTuber Scott J, who's currently compiling his own definitive version of the game, pointed out that the dates on the Asian files match the US dates, with the exception of the commentary files, which are dated after the US and European releases, appearing to confirm that Yuke's received these files late, which is why they weren't included in the initial versions. So there you go, that's our look back at Smackdown Here Comes the Pain and some of the hidden content that it includes. To this day, it still holds up as arguably the greatest wrestling game of all time, as the fast-paced arcade gameplay and the incredible depth of the story mode and the creation suite really do make this a game worth playing, even in 2020, and especially if you've never played it before. So I hope you've enjoyed this look back at the game and the secrets that it holds, and if you did, please do subscribe to the channel and enable notifications for more videos like this. But until next time, have yourself an awesome day, and I'll catch you later.